decision I could have ever
What's
made.
the best decision you've ever made, hiking in Vans?
I've been working on assisted pull-ups with a band,
Yeah?
and I can get over like 5 sets, anywhere from like 15 to 20 reps,
Oh, nice.
and my shoulder doesn't get mad. So that's a plus. And I'm not doing a neutral grip. I'm just doing regular pull-ups.
So you're noticing the organizations of the exercise.
And like I'll come all the way down, so I sink all the way down, and then I focus on that scapular retraction and then pulling through.
You can change the order of those things whenever you want. And when I was first taught, they're like, well, make sure that you're retracting the scapulas and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, then there's times where you may not be doing that or have the ability. If I'm in a different position and I got to pull this way versus pulling this way, or I have one arm here and then I got to swing this way and like a rock climbing scenario, I would like to be prepared for that. So that may not look like the right pull-up, and connecting that into not only your workouts, but how you're viewing what other people are saying about exercise, it being right or wrong or whatever. There's no real right exercises. There's only like what's okay now for an individual that they're tolerating, that's getting them closer to the thing that they want to do, or do they want to be like an exhibitionist and they just want to try a bunch of different stuff, right? It's like, oh, I'd love to see if I can do that. It's really a game of like Simon Says. Can you do that? What happened? That's the big arching overview of being an efficient observer, right? Observer of your body. When I'm training, like, am I really observing my body, my autopilot as I'm doing it? Because exercise versus activity, it's like a continuum. How much of this line, X, in activity, how much attention is necessary? I'd say this is a large amount of attention. This is very low. You're trying to do this automatically. And this is a thing where you're thinking about, okay, all the parts of exercise, the feel of it, the interoception, where did it go, the external factors of location, can you accurately predict it? And when you look at it, it's like, is it really there? What was the result? Accuracy, did it recover? What was the total torque or the weight? Or like, what were the numbers involved with it? This is like total outcome. Like, did I succeed? Did I enjoy myself, right? This is all about, well, where do I want this to go? What am I using it for? Because this is for a specific adaptation. It's not like, hey, I just want to have fun. Right? This is like, I'm having trouble doing X. What are the things that are going to be involved to create that adaptation for me to go do the thing that I want to be doing? This is so that you can do that without thinking about it. I can use that as a microcosm into how this is all going, because I want to be able to kneel on the table and not feel like we're talking today about rotator cuff tears. We're taking a specific pathology. We talked about what a rotator cuff is. What's a rotator cuff again to begin with?
This way.
Yeah, it goes in there. So we have the humerus and we have the scapula. Right?
The backside.
Yeah, backside. Yeah.
And then anterior side on the side.
Love it. What's this thing right here? The spine. So if something's below the spine, it'd be inferior. Be inferior to the spine of the scapula.
So this is the
infraspinatus. What's above the spine? Superior.
So the supraspinatus.
Supraspinatus, yep. Then what fits right down below this area?
Would that be the subscap?
So subscapularis is going to be the front, on the anterior side. So down there, teres minor. So teres minor and the infraspinatus kind of work as a fan, right, down here. And so, but when you're thinking about what a rotator cuff is doing, well, what is it doing? See, this is a compounding idea. It's like, because we have statements out there like, do this exercise because it doesn't really involve the rotator cuff.
But in reality, it's using all of the muscles of the rotator.
All the time. It's at a steady state of readiness to combine in these synergies to do these things, right? So if where's the axis of this bone on this bone? Can you point to an axis of the center of rotation is the axis of this rotation? So is this, if I spin this, is this outside part moving? Yeah, it's moving, right? Is this part moving?
Yes.
Is the middle here, is that now moving? Axis of rotation, right? Big concept. The axis of rotation that can start changing. If I start doing this, this part ain't moving a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
But this is, so now this guy's got an axis of rotation when I'm doing this. What's the definition of the lever? The lever is the point of application of a force to the axis of rotation. So if we're doing these pushing things, you got to know the axis and you got to know where the distance is between this axis and where you're shoving or on those machines. Because that lever is going to define how much torque maybe on this thing that you may have to come up with. It may change exactly how somebody feels. It may change the point of application, the direction of force, all these different things that you can change, because this sucker here, it's not just involving the rotator cuff. It's involved, like the rotator cuff is here really close to the axis of rotation, the center of rotation. It's right on that sucker.
Yeah.
Think of it like, here, let's go over here. This is a good example. Field trip, everybody. Okay, everyone wants to see the bathroom.
Yes.
We're not like this barn door. We don't have joints that just are on hinges that slide. We have these kind of fun joints here that spin and slide, and they're kind of like this, but they don't, they're not really confined like this, right?
Yeah.
Show me how you would open the door. Okay, well, how come you chose to pull it straight back?
Because that's the way that it opens.
But you didn't stand next to the hinge, did you? Close the door once, stand next to the hinge, and try to open the door pulling towards you.
Like this?
Yeah. Is it harder?
I mean, it's more inconvenient right now.
Try it again. Ready? Hold this. Pull that way. No, no, no. Don't pull up. Pull that way. Pull. Pull harder. That way. Pull that way. That's what your muscles are doing. They're not anchored here.
Yeah.
They're anchored against this wall, pulling this way, trying to rotate this. A lot of compression, right? So you're driving this way. That's why it's like you don't have this type of rotational mechanical advantage in a lot of these systems. But what you do have, you have these little changes in direction, so you can create what's called a moment of force, or a moment arm. We're going to cover moment arms later so that you can see, oh, what is the line of force that gives you the action of something around an axis, right? Because the lever versus the moment arm, they're two completely different things, but they can intersect at different times. But all I wanted to show you was these rotator cuffs, they're anchored like right next to the center of rotation. I got to try to open this door by pulling this way, knowing about torques, knowing about moment arms, knowing about levers, but more importantly, these axes of rotation is going to be a starting point for a lot of how you're going to be choosing to bias towards loading something. And this is happening in every single axis that is supported or not supported. It has to be controlled. That's what's so tough about being human, is we have all these uncontrolled manifold problems, right? It's like there's so many degrees of freedom that have to be controlled, and if you're not actively controlling it, there's going to be a problem. And that seems to be where a lot of pain and problems come from, is not being able to control a lot of these degrees of freedom. But how do you know which ones are combined to control? Because muscles span many joints, and that's not even how they're controlled by the software and how you were wired. And that's what you're deducing. It's like, where do I intervene with this so that the brain knows how to control these uncontrolled pieces better? That's what's really happening. And in the guise of rotator cuff, you have some muscles that are close to an axis of rotation. You have some that are further away. You have other muscles that are neurologically linked to help you to control entire circuits. So if you have someone that's like, I got a rotator cuff problem, and they're only thinking about the rotator cuff, yikes. How many other things could you boost that would help the rotator cuff? Because when we looked at the data, what did it say was the primary driver of rotator cuff health? Remember, we talked about this last week when we did all the thumb stuff. What was the primary driver of it? Muscle quality. Where can you get muscle quality? Everywhere. If I have my humerus, because these rotator cuff muscles, again, remember, you're going to have some that come and attach out here. You have some that are going to attach on top here. You have some that like are basically wrapping around this stuff. Pretend this is a humerus, and down here is the socket. Hold here. So pretend this is the deltoid tuberosity, which is going to be right here. There's a load placed here. Control that, right? Control it. Kind of tough, right?
Yeah.
Because work equals force times distance. So this deltoid here is controlling stuff here. Well, really, the rotator cuff is here. So if it's going to help control stuff, put your hands down here. Now control this. How hard is that?
Very.
Very hard, right? Because you have no distance. So you got to come up with some good force here in order to try to centralize this golf ball on this golf tee, or this sucker's coming out. So when people are like, oh, these rotator cuff muscles, they're small.
But they're important.
They're important, but if you open it up, some of these rotator cuff muscles are pretty thick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen the thickness of a lat, really thin. Really thin. But it's like that teres major on some people. On some of those guys, it's like rockin' thick. Rockin' thick. It's crazy. You have the bicep going through the bicipital groove. You have the tricep coming in. You got the deltoid on top. You got pec major coming in. You got lat coming in. You got teres major coming in. Coracobrachialis. You got a lot of different things helping with glenohumeral stability. So which one is more important than the other? I'm like, I don't know. And those are just the muscles that are contracting. When I think about the arm, what else could be involved, right? Because what is the arm doing? Is the arm there just to hover in space?
No.
What are you usually using your arms for?
Usually using it to reach out to grab things.
Yes.
Usually it's a lot of reaching.
A lot of reaching.
Whether it's out, up, back.
You're probably going to select a target. So now if I turn my head and my eyes, which require muscular coordination, I need that to be in a feedback loop with hands that are accurate, and to be able to then telescope my arm to then grab and reach something. So then even the hands, the elbows, radial ulnar joint, wrist stuff, neck stuff, cervical stuff, eye stuff, even jaw stuff, because the jaws are tied into the hyoid bone, which support neck function. Okay, so if anyone has anything of the rib cage, of the neck, of the face, facial trauma, hand trauma, it can heavily influence the feel of the rotator cuff, because any part of that circuit that isn't working means that the implicit part of the mind, the non-conscious, unconscious part of the mind won't want you to go there, will protect and throw a pain response out somewhere that you perceive somewhere in your body, but it's happening as a circuit, wild. So when someone's like, I can't do this thing in this direction, I'm like, were you holding something? Like I start asking questions, like, do you have any previous concussions? A lot of eye trauma. Did you have any TMJ problems? Swallowing problems? Did you have braces? A lot of dental surgeries, right? Like what all happened? Car accidents. You a surfer? You ski a lot? Because chances are they're going to fall a ton. Do you like to bike around a lot, fall off your bike? So now it's like I'm fielding questions like that to see if any of this control stuff, any of these activities that they've done, has affected their control. Because this still gets back to the same idea of if the control is off, it usually manifests in a pain response.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways, right? It's not all the ways. There's physiological problem stuff, there's disease stuff. It's like, I think it's our job to say, like, is this a physical control problem tied into pain, right? And if they're moving better, does their pain change? Because the last thing I would like is their pain to change and they have some sort of disease state that I don't pick up and it's a real problem and they need attention right away. There's medical processes for that. If we can detect that sooner and be like, I don't think this is in our wheelhouse, however, we can be an adjunct on your recovery, way different proposition.